Log, Roni Horn.
Maria Bamford, March 22nd, 2019. I am paralyzed with hope. I am paralyzed with hope. I am paralyzed with hope.
Good news, March 25th, 2019, New York. From the news today, gender is a sliding scale in the world of butterflies. Upper left, male. Upper center, female. The rest are varying degrees of both. I always thought I was a chimera. Now I know I am.
March 27, 2019, New York City. Front page news. Colombo, Sri Lanka. March 2nd, subject. Custody of a baby elephant. A leaf treeless for Bartil Brett. What times are these when a conversation is almost a crime because it includes so much made explicit? Period. March 28th, 2019, New York, Paul Celan. March 29th, 2019, New York City. Came back to the studio after 6 weeks traveling. This was on the floor of my library. Feel like a zombie. My attention is so fractured, but this makes sense. Must have been something on my mind. Can't remember though. March 30th, 2019, New York City. A misspelled name, it must shift identity. Definitely it changes destiny. Even a bad name, properly spelled, will change the outcome. Naming someone Frizz or a Majid is bound to turn out badly.
April 23rd, 2019, Austerlitz, New York. This little magnolia came into flower today. I'm taking blossoms personally since I'm moving around so much these days. Meeting a fresh blossom is a serendipitous event. May 24th, 2019, Oslo. Spent the evening on an old wood boat with friends. We wandered around the islands in the Oslo fjord. It had been raining all day, but just as we walked down to the dock, the sun split through the sky. So far, my weather has arrived on time. Anna Capri, June 19th, 2019. Watching the sunset, it's pink and dirty. 1, I took this picture, but 2, it's not the picture I took. 3, watching the sun set, through its multitude of delicate pinks, and set through the sultry, dirt-laden air. 4, is a dirty sunset a sunset? June 28th, 2019, evening, Zurich. The high point of the day was an encounter with a large black bumblebee. She was busy flying herself again and again into a shop window. Eventually, she dropped to the sill, rested a few beats, and began crawling up the glass until she fell down, and then started crawling back up, also again and again. On the inside was an elaborate display of candles and blocks made of beeswax. July 3rd, 2019, Zurich, 82 degrees. Egret, it's been 2 days since I saw her. I'm still thinking about it. Out the window of the building where I was working, an egret was pecking at a tree. She was persistent, like she was trying to get a taste of the bark, checking if a meal could be made of it. I felt sad watching her. It wasn't obvious, there was no reason to it. She seemed uncertain, tentative. I went back to work. Night was falling. 2 hours later, I hear tapping. It was her, out there still, standing in the darkness. She'd wandered over to the glass door and was tapping it with her beak. I watched her white, bullish head bump back as her long orange beak made contact with the invisible glass door. Turning to the plate glass wall adjacent, she tried that too. Maybe the building was in her way. It was just completed. What had been here before? Maybe it was her place, her home before the museum was built. Or maybe she was lost, disoriented since Hurricane Harvey came through, roughing up Houston and redistributing the water earlier in the year. October 18th, 2018, Houston, Texas, 10:02 at night.
Pick 1. He inherits his Uncle Emily's ardor for the lie. Emily Dickinson. When I'm good, I'm very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better. Mae West. July 25th, 2019, NYC.
A white stone. In May 1979, I was exploring Bakkafjordur on the northeast coast of Iceland. The sky was sitting on the ground, the fog of it obscuring the view. Across the narrow valley, I could just make out a group of Somerset huts. Not memorable, really, except for the fact that they were made of concrete, an extravagant bit of engineering, I thought at the time, and funny too. Aimlessly, I wandered along the bank of a still stream. I wasn't going anywhere. Along the dark rocks and black earth of the riverbed, I discovered a white stone. I have it in my hand now. The white is translucent and sort of dirty, and you can see that something's trapped inside, a denser space in there like a shadow or a mystery darkness. Sure, I will never know what's in there, but I like knowing that something is. A capsule of white stone, probably quartz, rolling it in the palm of my hand, considering the size and weight. The surface is baroque with detail, but also smooth and edgeless. It offers me softness after all these years. The stone is whole, complete, not a fragment of something else. Molded inside the space of another thing, it is a memory, a physical record of a now non-existent place. For more than 40 years, I've enjoyed this stone, its scale so perfectly compatible with my own. In the fractional, non-geologic infancy that is my lifetime, I have accumulated enough of me to become mildly erosive force as I feel the softness and smoothness of this white rock intensifying over years of intimacy. 2018, 30th July, 2019, New York City.
August 10th, 2019, NYC. Who's who? Barbara Stanwyck says, "You're not innocent of her death. You just didn't kill her." East Side, West Side. Burt Lancaster says, "I'd hate to take a bite out of you. You're a cookie full of arsenic." Sweet smell of success. August 11th, 2019, New York. You who? The immense accretion of flesh which had descended on her in the middle of life, like a flood of lava on a doomed city, had changed her from a plump, active little woman into something as vast and august as a natural phenomenon. She had accepted this submergence as philosophically as all her other trials, and now, in extreme old age, she was rewarded by presenting to her mirror an almost unwrinkled expanse of firm pink and white flesh, in the center of which the traces of a small face survived as if awaiting excavation. Edith Wharton. I know that keeping the lips slightly parted and wetting them occasionally with the tongue makes them appear fresh and appealing, so I do it. Ava Gardner. August the 15th, 2019. Aretha died a year ago. August 16, 2018.
August 29th, 2019, Austerlitz, New York. Birch trees, the kind birch bark canoes were made of. The bark is bright white and fresh, like something always new. Up close, it's a powdered surface, maybe titanium oxide, opaque and matte. There's a delicacy to this whiteness, a soft, vulnerable quality, though spectacular too. When I touch the bark, it leaves dust on my fingers. It gives away its white, but mysteriously, the white remains undiminished, bright and spectacular.
Maria Bamford, September 8th, 2019. I am paralyzed with hope. 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 I am paralyzed with hope.
September 23rd, 2019, NYC. No, where? September 24th through 26th, 2019, NYC. The Wizard of Oz, aka Oscar Zoaster Fadrig Isaac Norman Henkel Emmanuel Ambroise Diggs, came from Kansas, though some believe he was from Nebraska. 2. Dorothy Gale, aka Judy Garland, came from Kansas too. 3. Judy Garland, aka Frances Ethel Gum, came from Minnesota. 4. In 1929, the Hartner tornado blew through Hartner, Kansas, when Frances was 7 years old, but 10 years before the existence of Dorothy, and 5 years before the existence of Judy. 5. The tornado that occurred in the 1939 film production of The Wizard of Oz closely resembled the Hartner tornado. The Hartner was notable in that it killed no one and for being one of the least destructive tornadoes in a tornado-riddled decade. Part 2. 6. Additionally, in 1939, a curious fact was revealed to the American public, that the Wicked Witch of the West melted when splashed with water, like sugar or salt. 7. I was relieved when the WWW melted in water, though I found it shocking and unbelievable, but also poetic, even as a child. 8. The fact that the Hartner tornado was non-lethal and resulted in no significant damage likely means that Glinda the Good Witch of the South, aka the Good Witch of the North, born in 1900, making her 29 at the time of the tornado, like Dorothy, is also from Kansas. October 1, 2019, New York. Jesse Norman. Jesse Norman passed away yesterday, September 30th, 2019. October 15, 2019, New York City. FYI. Submarine. Ryszard Kapuczynski. All the dwellings on the earthen floors, on mats, on bunks, lay silent, inert people. Their faces were bathed in sweat. The village in Ethiopia was like a submarine at the bottom of the ocean. It was there, but it emitted no signals, soundless, motionless. The Shadow of the Sun. Cellophane by Svetlana Alexievich. If you drove out of town, Chernobyl, you'd see these scarecrows, a cow all wrapped in cellophane, and then an old farmer woman next to her, also wrapped in cellophane. Voices from Chernobyl. November 1st, 2019, New York City. FYI. The Blackwoods. Shirley Jackson. My name is Mary Catherine Blackwood. I am 18 years old and I live with my sister Constance. I have often thought that with any luck I could have been born a werewolf because the two middle fingers on both my hands are the same length, but I have had to be content with what I had. I dislike washing myself and dogs and noise. I like my sister Constance and Richard Plantagenet and Amanita Phalloides, the death cup mushroom. Everyone else in my family is dead. Elizabeth Taylor, The Brontes. Once I saw Emily's comb, a very nasty looking comb too. She dropped it off the horsehair sofa the moment she died and it fell in the fire. Charlotte grabbed it, which seems like an odd thing to have bothered about doing with her sister dying. There it is to this day, a bit burnt. One of the most horrible things I ever saw. November 2nd, 2019, New York. Extraterrestrial, Elizabeth Taylor, E.T.
November 8th, 2019, NYC, Gray Empire. Almost a part of the weather, or at least as close to atmosphere as to architecture.
November 18th, 2019, New York City. Jane Mansfield, photo, Bernard of Hollywood, printed in West Germany, Kruger.
Maria Banford, December 31st, 2019. I am paralyzed with hope. I am paralyzed with hope. I'm paralyzed with hope. I am paralyzed with hope. I am paralyzed with hope. I'm paralyzed with hope. I am paralyzed with hope. And again, I'm paralyzed with hope.
January 9th, 2020, New York. My Oz. January 25th, 2020, New York City. Pick one. I hated the mountains and the hills, the rivers and the rain. I hated the sunsets of whatever color. I hated its beauty and its magic and the secret I would never know. I hated its indifference and the cruelty which was part of its loveliness. Jean Rhys. She was frightened of mice, snakes, frogs, sparrows, leeches, thunder, cold water, drafts, horses, goats, red-haired humans, and black cats. Ivan Turgenev.
February 16th, 2020, Austerlitz. Evening browsing in the illustrated checklist of the Birds of the World, Volume 2, Passerines, page 601, illustrates the mountain bluebird. On page 851, there's an indigo finch. 283, the cerulean cuckoo-shrike. Page 336, the blue paradise flycatcher. And page 842, the blue bunting. Bluebirds are not white in a very particular way. When I look at bluebirds, it dispels the need or desire for other colors. Blue is limitless, nuanced, and complex. Blue is the color I never feel I have the whole of. In this way, it resembles white.
The possibility of a previously unseen red. March 3rd, 2020, Austerlitz, New York. 1. But the possibility of a previously unseen red. 2. Once I saw Emily's comb, a very nasty-looking comb, too. She dropped it off the horsehair sofa the moment she died, and it fell in the fire. Charlotte grabbed it, which seems an odd thing to have bothered about doing with her sister dying. There it is to this day, a bit burnt. One of the most horrible things I ever saw. Elizabeth Taylor at Mrs. Lippincotts. 3. Dead it looked, like the photograph in a newspaper of a road where a murder had been committed. Elizabeth Taylor at Mrs. Lippincotts. 4. In a Hamburg hotel room recently, I was watching Law & Order Special Victims Unit. The image quality was remarkably sharp. Watching it was more like performing an act of forensic analysis. I had the impression of peering through an invisible space, one that was somehow sealed into the image itself. Beyond this particular veil of clarity was Mariska Hargitay talking on a cell phone with a kidnapped child who was stashed in a transport container, trying desperately to locate her before 5. A non-analog image has an extremely compressed lifespan. It starts as this and, in increasingly short time spans, becomes that. Locked into an abstract context of technical progress, we climb an endless ladder of previously experienced clarities. Each fresh degree of definition offers retrospective approximation, a more recent version of old. This succession permeates every level of consciousness, both individual and collective, recalibrating awareness, altering identity itself. 6. A few years ago, a friend and I were watching the sunset over the ocean. It was the ocean surrounding beep north of Reykjavik. At some far-off distance, and tiny in our view, the sun began to squeeze down into the horizon. Just an instant or so before or after it touched the water, a green ray made its escape from the scene. Now, this form of distance presented no clarity at all. I could not decide if I had seen the ray or it was merely inspired by local circumstance. Even if I had seen it, a green ray is so improbable, so awesome and fugitive, that it would elude any but the most approximate form of capture. 7. An elusive, child-sized red figure darting about in the Venetian darkness. A red dwarf burning out beyond Saturn. A nasty gang of runts in red snowsuits acting out in a North American suburb. An attractive young Italian woman dressed in red is stalked by a lesbian serial killer. A village girl, the prettiest you can imagine, in a red velvet hood cut from the belly of a sleeping wolf. 2011. March 28th, 2020, Austerlitz, New York. FYI, some habits of peacocks, Milledgeville, Georgia. 1. The peacock likes to sit on gates or fence posts and allow his tail to hang down. A peacock on a fence post is a superb sight. 6 or 7 peacocks on a gate is beyond description, but it is not very good for the gate. Our fence posts tend to lean, and all our gates open diagonally. 2. Peacocks not only eat flowers, they eat them systematically, beginning at the head of a row and going down. If they are not hungry, they will pick the flowers anyway and let it drop. For general eating, they prefer chrysanthemums and roses. 3. You can't have a peacock anywhere without having a map of the universe. Flannery O'Connor.
In Banford, March 31st, 2020. How do you pronounce that last word?
Austerlitz.
Thank you. I am paralyzed with hope.
April 10th, 2020, Austerlitz. Today is Saturday, April 18th, 2020. It snowed all day. A gang of robins with full red breasts were sheltering under the eaves of the studio this morning. Even with pregnant bellies, robins have great posture. Birds are scarce, though, and the landscape has a forlorn quality. At dusk, the robins come out en masse. In their pregnant state, they're heavy enough that I can hear them skirting in the grass. Over the last few weeks, only 1 cardinal, 2 blue jays, 1 unknown bluebird, 2 Canadian geese, 2 wood ducks, 2 harlequin ducks, 3 mallard ducks, 1 blue heron comes at dusk to fish the lake, many American robins, 1 woodpecker, heard, not seen, 4 wild turkeys just passing through. No owls since I arrived the 3rd week of February. No ravens or crows either.
Well, I would like for the audience to read this with me if they can read it. So we'll start on 3. All right, I'm gonna count because we gotta do it together. All right, 1, 2, 3. I am paralyzed with hope. 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 Yay.
Log, Roni Horn.